Hello my creative friends. In this week's video, I'm going to create my first ever silicone mold, but not the traditional way or the way that maybe some of you think about pouring a big tray and putting them inset in there. No, I'm trying to do it the easy way. Well, I hope it's the easy way. I'm turning this into this. I was super hesitant to try to pour my own silicone molds. That's a tongue twister. Silicone molds. Until Jay Diction introduced me to their new brush-on silicone that cures in 15 minutes. So you can have a whole mold created in just an afternoon. So I thought, hey, that doesn't sound bad. That sounds easy. That doesn't sound too expensive. That's just what I like. So let's get started. I kidnapped this bear sculpture from my mom and dad because I thought this would be a cute thing to make a mold out of. They got this a long time ago. It's actually the lid to a box. I thought, go big or go home. Let's do a bear full of detailing and fur and grooves and pits and yeah, maybe start with something simpler. But anyway, you'll see what happens. In this silicone brush-on kit, Jay Diction supplies you with 2 silicone brushes. Of course, you've got your part A and B silicone. It's an equal 1-to-1 ratio mix, so it's super simple. And a couple popsicle sticks, and of course, really good step-by-step instructions. So before we begin mixing this, we need a measuring scale. I'm going to put on some gloves and we're going to measure out part A, and I'm going to start with just over an ounce each. And then clear my scale and pour in my part B. Now part B is a lot thicker and you kind of have to squeeze the bottle and glop it out. But the measurements came out perfect. And by the way, this doesn't smell at all, which was great. It didn't bother me. All I had on were gloves. Now that I've got both part A and B in there at equal measurements, it says to stir for about 3 minutes and make sure that you scrape the sides and the bottom of your cup and your stick so that you get it all mixed really well, just like you do with epoxy resin. It's recommended not to pour silicone on silicone. Instead of pouring on my mat, I've got the top of a to-go container that is perfect for this bear. And I'm going to just set him in there and begin pouring. Now, I didn't follow the perfect instructions they have right in front of you with pictures, where it says to pour it all out on the top and let it pool on the bottom. No, I didn't do that. I poured a little bit on the top thinking I just work my way around him. Because he's got all these intricate grooves and crevices and cracks, I was kind of worried maybe I should have picked something simpler, and I thought I would take my time and brush it on. But remember, this silicone cures and sets up in 15 minutes so that you can easily add another layer. And because this is my first time using it and I'm trying to also film it for you guys, I probably took a little more time than I should have, because before I could get his entire body covered, the silicone was getting thick and gloppy. In 15 minutes, he is dry to the touch and ready for another layer. Just one tip for you, go ahead and dump most of the silicone on top of him and then just work from the bottom up. You do want it to pool all around the bottom of him because this is what gives you the base to work with, and you'll see what I mean by that later. So if you're the kind of person that enjoys working with slime, you're going to really love this project. When you first start out, you might be thinking, is this really going to work? But I guarantee you it works. My only problem was I started having too much fun and I got overzealous and I added way too many layers. I could have got away with 3 or 4 layers on this bear because this resin sets up so hard and sturdy, but I just didn't know, having never used it. And I was really worried about his ears and his nose and making sure I had a really good base for that. Well, that kind of came back to bite me in the end. It would have been better to leave my silicone mold thinner and more flexible because it would have been easier to take off. But no, I continued and added about 5 or 6 layers. Not necessary. Definitely not necessary. And you can see I even added more to his neck, thinking, oh, that's where it's gonna break. I better put more silicone on there, but actually that made it a lot harder to get off. Now it makes sense to me, now that I've done it, now that I look back. But for future reference, you don't need to put this much silicone on because this is some solid stuff. I did work on a little pig in between waiting for my bear to dry, and he was a lot simpler. I'm not gonna demold and show you the pig in this video because it's gonna get way too long. We're gonna focus on the bear. Now I'm just trimming up my petal after it's all been set up, and you wanna leave some excess around the edge because you're gonna tip it over and place it in your cup. And now it's time to demold our bear. I'm a little nervous because this is not my bear and I'm hoping I don't break him. I want to give him back to mom and dad in one piece. And because I made this mold so thick, it was actually difficult to get him off of his head. But thank goodness he came out in one piece and their bear is safe. And I actually have this big, beautiful, thick mold, and you can see it shows all the hairs and the little grooves. So I'm pretty excited to pour some Resincrete in here and see what we end up with. To measure my mold, I'm going to fill it with water, dump it on my scale, see how much it takes, and J-Diction has a Resincrete calculator on their website so you can figure out how much you need to make. And this is the reason why you needed to keep a base on your project, because you need to tip it upside down and have something to support it. And I'm using this TCP measuring cup. It fits perfect in there upside down and it's ready to pour. Resincrete is a 10:3 ratio, 10 powder, 3 water. If you want more details on this eco resin, be sure to look at some of my previous videos. I have several and it shows step-by-step instructions and talks all about it. I love this product. It's eco-friendly, it's water-based, it doesn't smell, it doesn't sticky. It's a great alternative to using epoxy. And then I'm going to add some of their Resincrete pigment. I love their pigment. It blends in smooth. It makes great marbling. But because I'm going to paint this bear anyway, I just wanted to put a little background color behind him. So make sure your mold is level and pour away. Now, the other problem with me having made such a thick silicone mold, it's a lot harder for me to jiggle and wiggle my Resincrete, which is what allows the bubbles to dissipate. So I did the best I could and we'll see what happens. One of my viewers gave me this great idea to have a little pot mold on standby, and anytime I have extra Resincrete, I just add to my pot. So one of these days I'm going to demold this and we're going to have a very colorful, fun pot. He is just about fully set up. He could probably go, overnight, but I'm going to go ahead and demold him and hope and pray that I don't break him in pieces. And of course, because I made that neck extra thick, which I shouldn't have, yep, a broken ear. I broke his ear off, but it could have been worse. I could have broke his neck off. Anyway, we can fix that with glue. So you can see where I have bubbles of resincrete on my bear that I am going to have to scrape off. But he's still soft enough that I can chisel out some of those imperfections. I let him set another 24 hours and then I'm ready to paint him and finish him up. Resincrete takes acrylic paints beautifully. I am just using a variety of acrylic paints. They were a pearlescent paint, so my bear is going to be a little shiny, but that's okay. And then I thought, you know what? This guy needs a little something, something. We need to make him different. And what do bears love? But honey. So I got out my UV resin and I created a honey pot and some honey drips. And then I realized he ought to be sitting in a field of flowers. I added some modeling landscaping around the base of him and then adhered all my UV resin, little drips and drops of honey and his little honey pot, and why not add a little bling bee to finish him off. And here's what we've got. Yes, the original looks definitely more professional, but hey, mine is really creative. I'd love to know what you think about this project in the comments below. Would you try brush on, rub on, paint on silicone to create your own molds too? And I sure hope that this video, if nothing else, inspired you to create something too. Have a great day, everyone.